Hey, this is Shobit, founder of Intentional Product Manager. Today we'll be talking about how do you get a product manager role in a FAANG company, even if you've never been in a product-led company before. Stay tuned for more. Okay, so you want to go work in a FAANG company. And just to clarify, FAANG company means Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. Those are the companies you want to work for. You want to be a product manager, a product leader there. The first thing that you have to do to get these roles is to believe that you can get these roles. See, here's what happens. See that working for a FAANG company as a product manager has become this dream job for so many people. It's like all they can think of. They look at their friends who are doing that, and they sometimes keep looking at their LinkedIn profiles and imagining how great their life is and how much it sucks for them to not be there. And then they start thinking about, well, it's clear that the people working at Google or Amazon or whatnot, they must be smarter, higher IQ, more well qualified, completely articulate in their communication, very strategic. They have this special magic touch, that makes them worthy of getting there. And at the same time, they're looking for what makes them not worthy. So they're fixated on what are the things that are not yet happening for them that they're not great at. So, somebody might be a really awesome product manager, but maybe they've never built a B2C product. And I've heard them come and tell me, Shobit, because I've never built a B2C product with millions and hundreds of millions of users, why would Google take me, right? Because I've never worked in e-commerce, why would Amazon take me? Because I've never worked in social networking, why would Facebook take me? And all sorts of reasons. And so what happens is that there's not just one truth in the situation, there's actually many truths in this situation. There's a truth that yes, you have never worked for a B2C company. Hell, you worked as a product manager in a company where mostly they weren't even using much data for decision making. 100% true. And it's also true that other product managers who had the same experience got into Google. Heck, I even know people who had never been a product manager before. They were in other roles. They applied to Google. Google interviewed them. They went in as a product manager. They interviewed as a product manager and they got the role. They got it. That's also a truth. Now, where are you focused on? What truth do you actually spend your mind focusing on? Is it the fact that you have certain qualifications and other people with the same qualifications have gotten in? Or is it the fact that this truth that you don't have so many things and you believe that because you don't have those things, you can get through to Google? So, there's multiple truths in the situation. The first thing is to believe that you can get there. And more so, it's also to believe that it has already happened. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, it's happened, but it's not happened. The belief that something has already happened, it's in the past, changes your psychology completely. Suddenly, it's not that you're just waiting for that to happen and you just can't let go. It's just something that's inevitable on the way, and best, it's already happened. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you went to Amazon.com, not for jobs, but just to order something, and you ordered something and it arrives with Prime 2-day shipping on Sunday. Let's just assume that. How many times do you check where your package is? Do you go and you're like obsessively like, oh, I ordered on this time and why isn't it here yet? And where has it reached? And what has happened to it and what not? No, it's going to arrive on Sunday. It will arrive on Sunday. Let it be. That's the same thing you need to do with your job. You have ordered it. You're doing all the work. It will arrive when it arrives. No harm, no foul. You have to let go of this neediness. And you have to have that belief that it's inevitable, it's happening, it has happened. There are various ways you can get there, but that's not the goal here. But that's really what you need to believe first of all. But there's a second thing, which is when we want something so badly, our existence seems to be based on that thing happening. And it's sort of like that thing or life sucks. You know, I'm gonna get the Google job or life sucks. That cannot be your attitude, because then it will never happen. The more you put something on a pedestal, right, where that thing is like, it's God, it's everything. The more you feel insignificant when you have not achieved this. So knock it off the pedestal, whatever. Google will take you, and if Google doesn't take you, who cares? Amazon will take you. Facebook will take you. Some smaller startup who's about to go big will take you and make you super rich. So it is just inevitable. It's happened. It's happening. I totally believe it. I'm 100% aligned towards it. That is step one. Not resume, not LinkedIn, not referrals, not interviews. We'll come to that, but this is step one. Okay, number two. Get the freaking interview, right? Whether it's Amazon or Google or Facebook or whatever. Well, if you want to be interviewed, if you want to be considered for a job, you got to go interview. And so this is where your ability to network, to use your existing network, to network on your own, and get that referrals, get that support comes in. And this is so important. And it's important for a few reasons. So number one, I don't know what the exact stats are, but the chance of you getting an interview, if you went through a referral, I would guesstimate it's between 10 to 100 times higher than if you applied online. Not saying you can never apply online, but it's a much better route. So that's number one. You get a referral. Google, for example, some Googler says that, hey, I really like this person. I've worked with them. I vouch for them. They should be interviewed. Chances are much higher you will be. But it's more than that. So in Amazon and Google, they look at your interviews and everything, but they also look at what other Googlers had to say about you. And that's true in every company. There's always other support. So you got to be building that support even if you have the interviews. Because very often, it's between, oh yeah, this person was great, or they were good, not amazing. Should we take them or not? And all these things make a huge difference. And they not just make a difference in you getting the job, but also what level do you get, what compensation package do you get, what team match happens. All those things matter because I'll just give you some examples of clients who they interviewed at Google and they were between L5 and L6 and they had a lot of support. And the interview went well. It wasn't crazy good, but because of the support, they got an L6 offer. And you know what an L6 offer at Google means compared to L5? It means at least 2 years of your career. You go on to one level higher. You're making $100,000 more, maybe more. It's a lot of money. It's exciting opportunities that you're working on. It just makes the world a world of a difference. And all it was good interviewing combined with all these other support that you had. So the referrals, the network you build, the support that you get, that makes a massive difference in your ability to land at Google. Again, even if you've not been at product-led companies, you can still do it. I mean, let's just break down a myth, right? If Google said, we will only take people from companies that are completely product led, where, people have worked on products with millions of users, what would be their hiring set? It's going to be so hard to hire for them. And this is a company which has, I'm not sure of the exact number, but probably 100,000 plus employees and needing so many. So they have to hire folks who are not from product-led companies. And the support you build makes a huge difference in whether you get past the hiring committee, the kind of offer you get, and just the kind of impact you can have there. Okay, so you have built the support. The next thing is to optimize your resume and your LinkedIn. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. So even with the referral, it doesn't mean you'll automatically get the interview. It means that your resume will be looked at. And now your resume has to prove without a shadow of doubt that you are a fit, or at least worth considering, for that particular position. So basically, the recruiter, the hiring manager is going to take a quick glance at your resume, and if it tells a good story, if it makes you seem like a fit, yep, you're on to a conversation, otherwise you're out. But it's more than that. Probably the person who's looking at, they will also check out your LinkedIn, because, people can lie much more easily on resumes than LinkedIn, which is public and everyone's seeing it. And so that's where your LinkedIn comes in. And also there's other reasons why these two things are so important. So for your resume, one function is to get the interview, but the other one is to tell a story and highlight the things you want to talk about. So even cases of highly structured interviews like Google and Amazon and Facebook, people take a look at your resume and they ask you questions from it. And you want your interviewers to be asking you questions that play to your strengths rather than your weaknesses. So if it tells a story, if something really important jumps out, an accomplishment you want to talk about, you want to use that to sell, that needs to be on your resume and so clear and so impressive that people go, oh, I want to know more. That's the hook that brings them in. With LinkedIn, the thing that's important is that if it's optimized, you will start to see more inbound requests. You'll start to see people reach out to you. And look, recruiters from even a Google and a Facebook and Amazon are always reaching out. I mean, hiring managers are always reaching out because, look, it is hard to find candidates. No matter whether the market was awful as during COVID or the hiring market is tight as it's now when I'm recording this video, it's always hard to find that match. And the easiest way to find a match, go on LinkedIn and look at people and pick people who are a fit and go reach out to them. Maybe they're recruiting. So your LinkedIn profile makes a huge difference, makes an absolute huge difference. And so that's why all these things need, even if you have referrals and all sorts of supports, these things need to tell your story. They need to bring in qualified leads, if you look at it as a sales process from companies. They need to move attention to the things you want to interviews for them to talk about, and they need to help you land the interview. So you have your optimized resume. The next part is, of course, to prep for interviews. And I want to emphasize a few things as far as interview prep is concerned. So, number one, there is no substitute for interviewing rather than doing it and getting feedback from people who have hired PMs at a Google, at a Facebook, at an Apple, at Amazon. You just gotta have that. So that's non-negotiable. Peer interviews can help, but not too much. So if your strategy is I will interview with 10 other people who are also interviewing at a Google, you'll only get so far. Okay, so that's one. Second, also what is important is that the interviewers, if like you got one feedback from here, one feedback from here, what everybody's seeing is your performance in one interview. What they're not seeing is the full picture, the line, Where have you been improving? Where have you been maybe even getting worse? And so the feedback is kind of only okay. So, at interviewing, it matters whether people have a longer term perspective on you. The next piece is that you should get better at doing your interviews, not just by interviewing, but also other ways. So let me explain. Let's say you're playing tennis, right? So you can go play tennis all day long and you can get better. But also what happens is that you do all sorts of drills. So if you're playing tennis, you might try to improve your endurance by running or doing sprints to increase your ability to move fast. Or you might, do some weights and other things. There's all these things that top tennis players do. Now, when you're interviewing, if you're only relying on doing interview questions in mock interviews, then you're just basically using one sort of muscle. So one of the things that's important is for you to be able to exercise different ways of getting better, especially if there's a focused thing that you need to get better at, right? So that's the thing that's absolutely crucial. And then the last thing with interviewing is to know the nuances of not just the fact that, let me put it this way, when you're interviewing, there is the conscious or above the line exchange that's happening where you're trying to answer a question correctly, trying to be creative, all those things. But then there is this second level of communication that's going on that's subconscious, where this other person is building a sense of, do they want to work with you? Do they consider you a peer, or do they consider you as someone who's like trying to get into Google but not worthy? Do they consider you someone who's confident? Do they consider you someone who's gonna succeed in this role? Do you consider them someone who's equal to all the other Googlers this person has worked with? And that's happening in all these different levels. How you communicate, how you look at them, how much confidence you exhibit. Do you pause and check in with them, or do you feel like you just got to keep going and you're like a nervous balance of energy? So all those things make a huge difference because people are biased. People are biased because biases they're just part of human existence. Nobody can stop them. And so you might have the same answer but delivered a different way will be weighed differently. And so what you have to do is get these biases to start to work in your favor. You have to project that confidence, project this poise that, yes, I deserve to be here, but also at the same time, not like I'm an ass. I deserve to be here, and don't you want to work with me? Like, won't I be cool? And that goes back to the belief that I talked about earlier, but it's also just different ways of changing how you communicate and articulating and making it easily understandable. So there's an art to it. And then another thing maybe I would add here is, are you making interviews fun? I know some of you are going to be now thinking, Shobit, what the hell are you talking about? Interviews suck. I hate them. They're not fun. Get out. I know you might be thinking that, but I'm telling you, interviews can be a lot of fun. I mean, you're just solving some problems. You're just telling people about yourself. And that fun element comes across. It changes the psychology of the other person. These, the neurotransmitters, there's these things called mirror neurons. And what happens is that whatever frequency you're exhibiting, they start to feel that and they start to get into that. So if you are exhibiting like stress and like hold everything tight, that's what they feel like. They feel exhausted. But at the same time, you exhibit fun, confidence, poise, go slow, answer questions correctly, right way, use creativity, all those things. They'll be like, oh yeah, I like it. Let's keep going. I mean, some of the best, when I was at Google, I interviewed some people and I left feeling the interviewed excited for them, excited to welcome them to Google. hoping they would make it through, but also just more energized from the interview. And how the interviewer leaves feeling at the end of your interview makes a massive difference on what they say about you and how much they're willing to go to bat for you. And the difference between when they say hire, leaning hire, or strong hire. So that's where it's going to make a massive difference. And there's so many things you can do to make your interviews not just great, but also enjoyable and fun. The last part, especially with Google, is the team fit, where once you make it past the hiring committee, what happens is that you go for a matching process with teams, and that actually feeds back into hiring committee in your final offer. So it does matter if there's domain expertise or other things that help you become a fit for some of the open positions in teams at Google, because that then translates into support for you for the final offer. So that's the last thing, and that's where some of the networking you might have done before, especially in the location you want to be, makes a huge difference. So the team fit, I would not ignore the team fit as something that we'll take care of later. It's something you need to think of from the beginning. Very important last piece in helping you land the final offer.
But remember, they sound great in theory, but they're really hard to implement in practice. And what most people need is a proven mentor, proven guidance to put them into play so that your next product management role is your dream one. You do really well, you find a job that you love to work at, you make shit tons of money, all those things flow, and you have this satisfaction and this happiness. And I want to make sure you don't shortchange yourself, because if you do shortchange yourself, you're just talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, over the course of your career that you're leaving on the table. So in order to get the help that you need and you deserve, intentionalproductmanager.com/apply. Apply to speak with us. Somebody from my team will have a chat with you, and everyone's qualified to help you really uncover and get clarity on what are the challenges in your career, what are your goals, and how do we get you from point A to point B. Build a step-by-step plan. And if we can help in that, we will certainly show you how. Even if not, this is something we just love to do, help people get that step-by-step plan so that they can succeed in their career. And a lot of people end up working with us anyway, but we just get satisfaction from doing that though. intentionalproductmanager.com/apply. And we look forward to speaking with you very, very soon.